There we go. The mouse quit working. That was very weird. It was like I play the intro and then I go to click and the mouse won't move, thinking it's probably needing batteries. So afternoon, made it in with not even seconds to spare. So came in from the Dawn's Discovery Camp, got in, had time to go use the bathroom, grab myself a can of Dr. Pepper. Hey David, um, get everything up and running. Pull off my Dawn shirt. Wow, this shirt was underneath it. So if I look scraggly, it's because I just did a 2 hour drive trying to race back here for today. Um, all right, there we go. Audio sounds muffled. Shouldn't. Audio should sound good, and I can check it always to see if it's you or me, because I can always do this. And I can always tilt it a little towards me, but I don't know if it would be muffled. Let's see what I sound like. Should be. Well, it's not showing me. Oh, I lost internet. I lost internet. That's funny. It should be fine because I just checked it, was hearing it really good. Just sounds different. Should be. Yeah, I think everything's, my internet's down 66 degrees, but yeah, it sounded good on the intro because I always let it play the intro, part of the intro, so I can hear the intro that we got audio, we got that. Everything was working fine. It's the same mic. We haven't changed out microphones. Nothing's changed. So there we go. Uh, sounds like you. There you go. Sounds like it's not connected to that mic. Picking up the computer's mic. It could be, but it's still picking up. Well, hold it. I can check this way. I don't know. Maybe you're correct. Could be the camera mic, but we'll have to live with it because I don't want to try switching things. Even though I get closer, it seems to. Yeah, it's kind of weird. So it does. Well, let's just worry about my mic problems today. It's probably just you. It's just, the rest of us have much more not as hypersensitive hearing as you. So there we go. So audio things aside, I barely made it in here I think I got in here. I had 5 minutes. So I had 5 minutes to use the toilet, grab a Dr. Pepper, pull off my shirt, get this up, and get everything clicked and go. So there you go. It was just a flying down the freeway kind of day. So I'm not sure if I can make all six during Discovery Camp, but I made three, so that's just kind of cool that I actually made the three. And Larry said hear me on live, but a lot closer to home from there than I was. Everything went well. We had about, I think it was 130 kids or so, probably. Um, I think there was about 30 adults, so it was probably 160 people out there for Discovery Camp, not including the dogs. It's always muffled. I can just put up my phone so I can hear you. It's a good. We can adapt and overcome. I don't know. I hear myself just fine. Let me see. Hello? Yeah, I hear me good. So, um, so everything is just what everything is. Obviously, the Dons have the Discovery Camp for third graders going on for 3 more weeks. So before we're out of that season, so every week I'm in the Superstitions. This week I'll be additionally in. Again, coming up, we have a couple other things to do, and we have a filming date. So for some things, so we'll be doing that. So there's lots always going on. Um, hello, host. There you go. Hello, host. Well, people just call me Wayne, but you can call me the host. Um, Anyhow, so I got the tall boy Dr. Pepper out of the fridge. So is that, I don't know. I drink Dr. Pepper. Nobody has to drink it. Don't drink Dr. Pepper. Just let me drink the Dr. Pepper. That tastes good. See, I didn't even stop on the way home because I knew I didn't have time, so I had a very dry throat all the way back. There you go, your first drink. That's a good new nickname for Wayne, the host. The hostess with the mostest. Um, but yeah, everything kind of normal. I think we're kind of, what is it? Even in treasure hunting on television, I think Oak Island's got to be almost done with its season. And then they'll move on to Skinwalker Ranch, Blind Frog Ranch finished up, or also, as we know, the Josh Feldman Show. Jax, get out of the blinds. Um, but that's all finished up. Everything else we're working on is just kind of in the movement of things. We were going through, there was stuff, I don't know if Dallas is here yet, but if Dallas is listening in, it's like I was going through a lot of that stuff and a lot of Bob Ward's manuscripts and stuff about what you were talking about, trying to see if I can get anything supportive of what he wrote there and anything else he wrote. So I'm trying to find other things because I'm not sure. Bob was kind of weird with stuff at times. So there you go. Day 3 without Dr. Pepper and it's horrible. There you go. See, it's kind of like stopping on heroin, man. Don't know what to do with yourself. You start getting your skin itches and start getting the heebie-jeebies and you start hallucinating stuff. So, and today's breakfast was a Dr. Pepper and 3 tacos, and today's lunch was a Dr. Pepper and 3 tacos. So tonight, though, I'll probably just have a salad and some breadsticks. Lay off the tacos. I think I had enough tacos today. So there, but it's been a quiet week. It's been a relatively mild, quiet week. Just busy with just normalcy and normal things. So chicken or beef. The tacos, it was beef tacos. I don't eat chicken. There wasn't a lot of chicken tacos, man. I've eaten fish tacos. I had fish tacos this week. Twice, actually. But, man, I don't eat chicken tacos. So I don't drink anymore. However, I don't drink any less. There you go. That's a statement. And it is. God, it's so hard to do that. And the cops pull you over and want you to point your finger at stuff, but you try to do this on a screen, it's almost impossible. Dang, that is so wickedly hard. Anyways, the clock over there is 5 o'clock because it's always 5 o'clock somewhere. The Obido Studio joke. It's like, why don't you put batteries in that? Because it's always 5 o'clock somewhere. It's either quitting time or starting time somewhere, or drinking time. So there you go. But it's been a rather quiet week. I really didn't talk to him too much. I actually talked to Woody today, so I had a conversation with Woody. I had to Bob last night. Well, let's see. Sometimes Bob Ward is the excuse for other people's alcoholism. But yeah, it was kind of a busy week. I did talk to Terry Carter. So anybody, the Terry Carter fans, everybody should be a fan of Terry Carter. But Terry Carter and I had probably about an hour phone call conversation earlier this week. We hadn't talked for a little while, so Terry's a good guy, a good friend. And so we had a conversation about any and all things. I'm trying to rope him into an interview. I know he doesn't like to do interviews. He doesn't like to do a lot of that kind of stuff. He likes to be the interviewer. And I want to do something with him because, God, we've been back and forth in a lot of different stuff, and we don't always agree on stuff. And we got to watch it because we're off the air we're much different about talking about a lot of this stuff, but not a Larry fan, a Terry fan, not a Terry fan. If you met Terry, have you met Terry? He knows some stuff. Yep, I watched Terry's video. Yeah, but watching Terry's videos, not knowing the man. I don't need Bigfoot. Yeah, I agree to that, but that's Terry's forte and his thing where it drove him. I don't think that's where he started. But regardless of that, we're good friends, and he's a really good guy. I enjoy him, and I always invite him down for the rendezvous and stuff, and I love having conversations with him every once in a while. We have really good conversations about treasure hunting and stuff. We have a lot of good ones. So that's, he knows a lot of people. Well, we all know a lot of people. I know people. Let's see. Are you trying to quit drinking? Okay, so we're having the sidebar conversation. So anyways, it was kind of a quiet week because outside of talking to Woody about a couple things, and I didn't really talk to him much of anybody else. Talked to Larry, talked to Terry. So I didn't talk to Harry though, but it was kind of a quiet week on that. I did some reading, but there was a lot of music involved. Jax, you're gonna get yourself in trouble. People here are hearing you're a bad dog. Yeah, see, that's a word that you don't like to hear, is it? No, I know you're right behind me now, because who's a bad dog? Is Jack's a bad dog? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you gonna put your ears down now? Yeah, of course. Well, you're a bad dog if you move the blinds. So don't move the blinds. Starting a carnivore diet. Okay, so I take Dr. Pepper and climb the mountains, and I have cans of Dr. Pepper in my pack. That's a good boost, man. David, I will explain to you. Wear what you wear that's most comfortable on your feet, that you would go do a lot of walking anywhere in, right? And eat what you would eat if you were just normally doing stuff, because you'll be fine. And if you try to switch things up too much, it creates more and more problems. The only thing I would tell the people is, if you want to get in shape for the mountains, get one of those treadmills that elevates, and then do like walk, jog a little on it, elevate it, flatten it out, elevate it. Get yourself used to changing terrains and walking and doing that kind of stuff in a warm up. So that to me is probably the one thing you can do to get yourself in shape in the mountains. But man, I was nothing but fast food, donuts, and Dr. Pepper when I was going through there like butter. So it doesn't matter what you eat. It's the mindset of like what your body physically can do. And hi, Lacey. Have a Dr. Pepper, Lacey. Leave him in the dust. Talk to Eric, the real deal, lately. No, I haven't talked to Eric. I got to give him a call too. I kind of chatted with everybody around Christmas except for Magnus, and I haven't talked to Delil since. I know there was a lot going on with him. All good, but there was a lot going on, and we were talking about some stuff. Always trying to see if I can get him to make a trip down, because that's something, just to kind of trip down so we can hang out and stuff. But otherwise, have not heard much from him. My wife just carnivore diet too. I'll hop on board too. Well, there you guys go. Go be carnivores. Um, Whatever that means. I eat meat all the time, so I don't need to be a carnivore diet. My tacos are carnivores diet. Anything the dogs will eat must be fine. So if the dogs turn their nose up on it, I know it's probably not good for you. There you go. But they don't eat grapes or chocolate because that's bad for dogs. My dogs otherwise have steak. They eat baked potato. They eat pork chops. They eat fish. They only will eat like home baked bread too. They're a bit odd. They're an unusual pack of wild things. But that's how they are. Anyhow, like I said, the treasure hunting kind of outside of some conversations Terry and I had, and me catching up on a few things. I'd gotten the bookcase reorganized and was digging around in some oddball stuff, pulling things out, going, "Oh, I forgot about this." Oh, I found a bag full of crystals, quartz, different kind of amethyst and different kinds of crystals, and I was like, "Oh, I completely forgot I had that bag full of this stuff." There was some other stuff. I was just like pulling things out, going, "Oh, I wonder what these cables are to," which is what happens to all of us, right? We put stuff away. But it was kind of one of those weeks where I was doing a bunch of different little things and working on some musical projects, and they weren't making music. It was so much as I was going through analog tape and transferring analog tapes and stuff and reel tapes and stuff. So I was trying to transfer everything digitally, and what I found is when I transferred them digitally straight from source to digital, I wasn't able to change them enough to make them very listenable. They were very muffled, a lot of problems. Thing we had to talk about in audio earlier. And then I discovered, once I decided to run them through my analog soundboard and then out and in, and once I did it, kind of went a different route, I was able to clean them up much better, and they sounded like 500% better. And they sounded more like what I thought they sounded like back when I recorded them, which the oldest ones were from 1986. So I had that stuff. So that made me feel better, because I wanted to get my transfer stuff. If I'm transferring it to digital, I want to make sure I get the best sounding possible copy there. Do you think the original parties finding Soup's mines named Pan Placer Goldilocks? It's hard to say what they did because, one of the things, analog. Yeah, I still use analog. I still have a reel-to-reel player. I still can do the quarter-inch tape cassette and do multi-tracking on that. I still like analog, and I like mixing analog because you somehow get something better out of it. But going back, um, it's hard to say because they never delve into that. That was always what was interesting. I'm trying to remember his name. He wrote the book. Borrego 13, Borrego 9, Borrego 10, Borrego 11, Borrego 18. I'm going to remember his name eventually. Anyways, I can't remember his name, but he found that book that was the book that said Peralta on it, and people have always speculated what could have been in it, but he said he opened it up and it was about the Peralta mines. It probably was in Spanish, but he realized it was a book that had pictures, some tintype pictures and stuff in it of different mines, and he thought because he found that in Irwin and Adolph Ruth's book collection, thought that was very, very important. People have searched for it, but he just said it was a cover of a book, very plain, said Peralta on it. And I don't know if everybody knows the story. God, what was his name? Borrego 13 by Gene Reynolds. I'm sorry, Gene. Gene passed away a number of years ago. Very, very nice man. Gene had worked with Glenn McGill from the Killer Mountains fame. And Gene went to visit the Roos, and he was in the basement, and it was the daughter of Adolph Ruth, or Irwin's wife. I think it was the daughter. She went to go get something, and there was a bunch of the books still on like a bookcase or on a thing, and he was going through them because everybody always goes, whatever you read, what's on your bookshelf says a lot about you. And he was going through them and looking at them, what was in there, and then he found that Peralta one, and he pulled it out and opened it up and was looking through it and had picked some photographs and some different things in it. And he was like, oh, this probably, and he didn't really think about it that much. He was thinking, that's really interesting. And he put it back in because she was coming back down and he was there to visit her and get some papers. I'll have to reread the story. Maybe I need to tell that story. Always put the word out there about finding that book. Anyways, there's been a lot of speculation of what that book actually was. Some people think it was a certain other book, but he felt it might have tied things in or been what Adolph Ruth really had kind of utilized for part of the source of his research, and which is probably true. Well, Gene never thought about it until after he was gone. Of like, wow, which all of us would have been like, damn, why didn't you steal the book? But he was a very nice guy, and Gene, in fact, he published his book on disc, so you could read it on the computer, and I got a copy of it, and I'd read it, and I printed and made myself a hard copy. And Gene and I would talk occasionally, and I always wanted him to come out to the rendezvous. He was a really nice guy. So Gene and I know the story's completely derailed from the other thing, but we were talking, and then he redid the book with photographs and stuff on the DVDs, more DVD style with all kinds of stuff in it. And I asked him for one of those, just talking, and next thing I know is I got this I have the letter somewhere, but I got this envelope from him, and I opened it up, and he said, thank you, and blah, 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 blah. Very, very nice letter, whatever it said. I'll have to find that too. Very nice letter, and he said, here's a copy of the new one I just did. He was selling them for like 20, 25 bucks, and he passed away right after that, so I never paid for it. It was kind of a gift anyways, because he says something in there, about it. Don't worry about anything, but I still wanted to send him something because he was a very nice man. Let's see, but who knows what they used to find the mines? It probably was they were prospecting through the areas, and they were probably looking for certain signs. I've met people that look not just at the rock and the geology, but the plants, the color of the earth, the color of the plants, why one plant or one tree is different than another. And there's certain things old school they knew what to look for. And I always believed that most of the mines they found was surface stuff, and then they worked those surface deposits. Some probably were more thoroughly. The gold went deeper, and some probably not. And that was what they were doing through that area. And that's why, suddenly by the time Waltz is even in there 50 years, 80 years later, you have less and less of it. And then after Waltz, there was less and less after that as people hit whatever surface strikes they could. So now we're not seeing the stuff on the surface like you could at one time, which is kind of explains why maybe when he said the one description was there was two pits, but they'd started one and then quit working on it, and then they worked on the second pit, and then they went to intercept it with the tunnel, and then they found it was curving, so they abandoned the tunnel. Well, I just wondered the same as Waltz's process. Waltz said no prospector would find it because there was no dump. And obviously, since they eliminated whatever it was on the surface, probably it didn't. Yeah, I mean the bushes, the trees, whatever was there was probably changed. So maybe he couldn't have recognized it either. There is a lost art to stuff. Um, let's see, Wayne, how would you feel if the whole story was made up? Well, it's not because Jacob Waltz was real. I personally think it's 110% after reading all of damn YouTube. So yeah, but Jacob Waltz lived. He's buried in a grave, and he's actually there. Julia Thomas and Reinhard Petrasch actually lived, and they did the things in the story they did. They both went and searched for the mine, even though it had no mining experience or nothing prior to that. After Waltz told them, that part there just kind of sets it up because why would they? She had a profitable store and was doing fine. Why would she abandon the store and doing what she was doing and then leave her house to go search up into the mountains for gold? It would make no sense. It's just like, I don't know. Well, it's hard to say because everybody's a treasure hunter and everybody's a little crazy. But it's just like saying some guy's an accountant and he's never watched, and he watches our show on History Channel and goes, you know what? I think I can find it. And then he just abandons everything and uses that TV show as like the entirety of. I don't even know if that's even good because that's kind of it's different. They had no idea what they were getting into, and they wouldn't have stopped what they were doing because they were in good standing in the community. So for them to have to take off and do what they did, there was a rhyme, reason, and whatever for it, and Waltz was the reason, and that's the common denominator. So it means whatever people want to think. It also points to you as, yes, if you could have 15 minutes with Jacob Waltz, it could change a lot of things because your familiarity with the mountains would be able to talk to him on familiar ground of having been on the same ground as him and walked some of the same canyons and understand where he's talking. So, but we didn't have any of that. All conjecture. Todd O'Doyle. O'Doyle. No, Wayne, believe it. I meant damn YouTube cut me off. Oh, thank you for responding. They found it. That's why she left the shop. But you can't tell everyone you just found a bunch of goals. These would target you. Well, that's another thing. There are people that claim the Holmes story people say that Dick Holmes got the ore and this and that and everything else and all this stuff, and there was a little trial and all this stuff. No documentation supports anything on any of it. That's the bad thing about the Holmes story. There's nothing supports it other than Brownie Holmes saying Dick Holmes' dad said this, and then what Dick Holmes said, and Ida said her husband said. Outside of those direct sources, there's nobody supportive of anything. He got the gravesite wrong. He got all kinds of stuff wrong. Reinhardt said the gold in the box was for Julia, and there was supposedly some sort of problem, but that got sorted out afterwards. And that's all we have. So, because we've never had anything confirming or further of Julia or Reinhardt talking what happened to the gold specifically, and we just have Dick Holmes' version, I always believe that its chances are Holmes was more of an intermediary for Julia with the gold or somehow that actually went and got the box. I don't even believe he stole the box. I think there was something else involved there. She thought, yeah, she was doing okay. She had a shop, and if you ever read about Phoenix's like pioneer women, she's in there. There's a big paragraphs about her, about being a successful businesswoman and everything. So she was highly thought of. And there's newspaper articles about when she got the religious bug, it bit her, about how they can't believe that's the same person, that she would go off kind of the deep end on the apocalyptic end of the world thing around 1900. People were very surprised because that did not seem to be her. She was a businesswoman, operated a successful business locally, and all that. So who knows? Um, and they said this smart thing, so they couldn't find it. Greetings, Wayne. Hey, Sky Cloud's in a little early. Gilgold Prospecting, San Antonio, Texas, where every day is a golden day. Playing with this new LiDAR satellite is going to bring past Taz, bet you. My only problem with LiDAR is I don't see how it's going to work in the desert, really. I mean, you know, I've talked to people that use LiDAR and been like, okay, is it going to show us stuff under the desert dirt? Is is it going to strip it away? Yeah, I mean, the desert's a funny thing, and most things in the desert, you can find an arrowhead from 1,000 years ago, an inch from the surface. I mean, stuff doesn't bury in the desert. Unless the winds or something builds something up. Most of the time in the desert, it's not like sand dunes. It's always on the surface. So that's why you can go through that place like Garden Valley in certain areas and find pottery shards and arrowheads and spearheads and stuff right at the surface, because it's not like back east where you have fall and the leaves all drop and then the composting and everything, and erosion. It doesn't do that. It has to be thousands of years old to get buried like that. So it's it's a whole different thing. La, 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 la. I'm trying to catch up always because couldn't find it. We were talking about the LiDAR. Is it worth trying to get a copy of the original Frank Fish Peralta map? I read the one. Well, I know where the original is. I read the one in Thomas Glover's book was copied. The original one's still in private hands. You want a copy of it? I got copies of the original. The original's still there. It's unsigned. It was stained, but the original is still there. It transferred hands several times, and it's in pretty good condition. So someone added some backing to it, so because it was getting very brittle. Because Al Reeser, for years, would fold it up and put it in his pocket. But what happened is they made copies of it, and each member of the Legends of, what was it? It's, what were they called? This is the Schaefers, Erie Schaefer and her husband, um, the Armentrouts and both of them, those four, Frank Peralta, John Burbridge, and there might have been a seventh person involved. I'm trying to remember if there was someone else. Legends of Adventure, and the Legends of Adventure group had a little thing, a little thing, and they were going to look for it. And Erie Schaefer had the map at the time, and that was the whole deal on it. And then the map moved from her to Al Reeser, and the map is still in existence. The original's there. Some of it was carbon dated. It seems time relevant of how old it could be. Now you got to remember, when you do the carbon dating or you date something, it just tells you how old it could possibly be. So it's too much has been done to it for you to be able to say anything specific. So it's definitely in the realm of possibility that it is the authentic thing. He said there should have been two maps, but yeah, the original copy. Is it worth trying? Yeah. So um, Legends of Adventure, yeah. So that was a Burbridge and all them, but they all signed their name on one copy, and that's the copy everybody has copies, and that created a problem because that was an original one, and when they went to Linda Peralta's place, she had that on the wall in a frame from Frank Peralta, and then that was supposedly, they thought that was the original and they'd signed it, but it wasn't the original. Nobody signed the original. The original was not signed. It's very dark though. I have pictures in my phone, tons of pictures of it. I've held it actually in my physical hands. So, but yeah, they stained it, so it's very very dark now. But you can still see everything written on it. So, how long was Gottfried searching with Julia? The rest of it went his own towards Peter's Mesa. Well, I don't know if he ever really went to Peter's Mesa. That's the Peter's Mesa guys. Peters Mesa is named after the rancher called Peters. It's not after the Petrashes. That was a bunch of people there's a group of people that really believe Pistol Canyon and Peters Mesa and Squad, all that stuff had everything to do with the Dutchmen, and they changed a lot of narrative um, to push that direction because they were right. And to show you how right they were, about 40 years later, they still haven't found Jack up there. But they're so convinced all the time, and they changed a lot of stories. One of the first stories I found was they had a story that they corrupted. Jax, get out of the blinds. But they had a story that they corrupted that Reinhardt had been kicked off Peters Mesa by Barkley because as he was up there doing this and that and a bunch of other stuff they had in the. Well, then I found a bunch of stuff and some letters and stuff, and it was Bluff Springs Mountain, which he was kicked off. It didn't mean it was one place or the other, but they kept changing stories and narratives to fit with that. Um, so Godfrey was around. Godfrey was searching up by Four Peaks, in fact, so you know that. Godfrey was around and searched with Julia. They were done before the end of 1892, but into 1893, Reinhardt, and Herman, and even Albert Schaefer were hooked up and traveled together. So I found census records and different records that show they were even up in Yavapai County in some different places. So maybe they were just trying to get out of the heat for the summer or something. Um, but I found those records and stuff because I was trying to track down when they all basically broke off, which appears to be sometime around by mid 1890s. And but they all kind of like Albert Schaefer was kind of brought into that group eventually, and Julia didn't really have anything that I could see ever to do with it much anymore. Probably through Albert, she was still connected to the group. Godfrey hooked up with a lot of people and did quite a bit of searching up along the Salt River and then north of the Salt River up in the Four Peaks area. There's a lot of groups and there's newspaper articles about him up there searching in the Four Peaks area. Um, I don't know how much he was stuck on that. Reinhardt and Herman. Herman definitely was a LaBarge and Needle Canyon guy. He spent a lot of time around Bluff Springs, from people's journals and letters and stuff. As much as people wanted to put him up on Peters Mesa, Reinhardt and Herman also spent a lot of time in Fish Creek Canyon down by Lost Dutch Canyon, so south of there, which is the problem. And once you start looking at records, mining claim records, and other things in some newspapers, you start finding these guys not in the places people have told you in some books. And the problem is there was a number of people that decided thought they'd be famous by telling a bunch of bullshit. And what they did is they got everybody, including myself, thinking, oh, this is really cool new information. And then when people start, because what happens is when we get new information, we all go, oh, that's really cool. Okay, so that's cool. So that's cool. And we start checking on it. And I've always used the names of Larry Hanna and Gary Cundiff. And Paul Shimmick was involved with a lot of that stuff, myself and Randy Wright. A lot of people kept searching what this certain individuals had said. Well, then we started finding it wasn't true. And this person had no real way to show anything. It was like there was interviews and stuff that were printed and things, and we were like, oh, that's really cool. Well, do you have the original? No. Where did you get your stuff? Because you have to have a source and say what happened to the original and what was the original and what date and so forth and so on. And it just started falling apart. And I was just like, man, that really sucks because it was cool information. What happens is those narratives ended up in Thomas Glover's book and Helen Corbin's Bible. The reason the Bible was taken off of bookshelves and pulled back was because of that. Um, but it's a shame because what it does is it means everybody from here on in has got to find a way to correct it all. Or write and publish a book that corrects all that and explains it and tries to kind of get things back in a corrected way. And that's so much work. That's so much work. So, yeah, I don't know. All right, so Joshua Carter's here, as always, every week. Joshua's here. I wanted to ask you what you would use as a movie prop to fashion an ancient gold bar like dinner bars 16th century. How would you go about it to make gold bars? Most of the time they use lead. They use they use lead, casting, and they're hollow because we had gold bars and stuff. I don't know if they used any of them. I have never really kind of dug into what they shot as B-roll because they didn't do them for the show. They did them for the reenactment stuff, the conquistadors, and all that stuff. They had a whole room of props. When we finished filming, we went into the office and they had wardrobe, and I got a picture somewhere of Jack Sanfelice in a conquistador helmet and stuff. I started putting things on people and taking pictures, and they had dynamite sticks and stuff. It was all props for when they did that B-roll reenactment stuff. So the whole room was full of all kinds of stuff, and we were playing around having fun with it. I thought it was pretty cool. I don't know whatever happened to all this stuff. I'm sure it's just rented out, or it's just for that, and then it goes back into storage or something. Someone has storage or something. But they had gold bars and they were very light. So, and I don't think they were aluminum, but they were probably just some metal, and they were just hollow, but they look good. And they might have some heavy ones, but most of the time they're made of lead, the fake ones. I'd suggest using something lighter if you're just using it for filming purposes. It is hard though, unless it's polished gold or like movie prop gold. Most of the time, it's hard to make it look like real gold. I've seen some old gold bars, and gold's like a buttery yellow. And I've seen some ingots that were pulled out of the ground, and guess what? They don't look like what you see in movies and stuff. They're not this shiny and stuff. You can't do this, and it's like, oh, perfect. So how do they do? They just look at what gold. See, but the problem is they're not trying to be accurate in a movie. What is the it's in the movie. They're trying to get it accurate to a point of what they say conveys the idea. And once it conveys the idea, it doesn't. Most movies that feature gold and stuff, it doesn't even seem similar. It's just like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the guy's got a gold bar. He's got a big gold bar in his hand like this, and he's like this here, and then the guy pretends like it weighs it on. You can tell because it's such dead weight. I mean, just a lead bar that size is heavy, heavy, heavy. I remember there was the silver bar, big silver bar, big silver bar. Jack Sanfelice had for a while. He brought to the rendezvous, and that thing was like, it was a struggle to hold it up just by yourself. And that was silver, and silver's not as heavy as gold. But spray paint, you just have to kind of get it dirtied up. Spray paint makes it too bright, too shiny, and too metallic. Gold is not metallic when you find it. Gold is buttery, it's dirty, and then the Superstition stuff. It depends what gold you're looking like. The Superstition stuff has a little green to it. It's a little green hue because of the copper content in it. The show's intro sometimes mentions, I don't know. I don't know where they got some of that stuff. I think they just would find something online and throw that quote in there. I mean, I don't know. I've heard so many different quotes of how much gold, and it's like, is that how much gold then or now or whatnot? Silver Lock of Mountain, what they found, what was it, 17,000, and that was when gold was $20 an ounce. So just think of what it would be today, how much, and they blew through that without a problem, and then ended up trying to kill each other. Yeah, it always ends badly, doesn't it? Joe's Low Budget Treasure Channel. Do you have any idea? Might have created the head behind. I don't know, the head behind Miner's Needle. Anybody and everybody. Bob Ward. Yeah, speaking of Bob Ward, there we go. Dog. Yeah, he doesn't care. Well, at least he's not in camera. That guy's voice bugs me. Who is it that bugs you? Oh, on the show. Yeah, I was supposed to narrate the show. We spent an entire day. I spent 10 hours narrating the show out on out by Black Cross Butte. Uh, they brought Frank, so I'd have someone to ride with, and then they told Frank to go sit in a truck. And then I went out and sat down on a rock, and then I'd stand, and then I would sit on the rock again, and I just did narration. We went through everything we'd filmed, and I did all the narrative work. And I was kind of like, why am I doing this? It seemed weird and silly to be talking about things in like it didn't make sense. It was just weird, the way I was having to do it and stuff. But they went and gave me lines, said, "Yeah, this is going to be the narration." And I said, "Well, because we had me walking around all over the place when we were filming, and the narration was supposed to go over that. So like at times it would be us walking in the B-roll, and then my voice would come in and we'd be talking about certain things." And it was a cool idea. We were telling stories and stuff, and some of it might have worked. But I was like, I'm confused. It's like I feel like I'm Kwai Chang Kane from Kung Fu, traveling through the mountains, through the world, just walking. Because I was just walking like big figure eights, hauled in randomly in the desert. And then that was one day, and then the other day was me just sitting on a rock talking. And all that narration, I don't think they used any of it. They all the what we call the all the interview stuff that I did in it was filmed separately from that. I don't think I'll have to watch it someday and see if I can pick up on it. But yeah, the day we did all the narration stuff, I don't think any of it was used. They liked my voice and they wanted to use it, and then they decided to go with a narrator to do it. They decided to change the style of it. Sky Cloud, bugging out. Man, you weren't gone long, but or you weren't here long, but we'll see you next week. Okay, well, not fed well, I better feed her. Were they filming you do the narration so they could cut to you doing like a little interview piece? No, the idea was the stuff about the history and stuff. I would correct things that I heard and we'd talk about, and they realized it was good to say, okay, tell us about this, tell us about that, tell us about this. So it would just show us walking, and if we're going to Black Cross Butte, I would just address certain things. So I'm trying to think of how it would have, because it's been so long and I didn't record any of that. It was just like, okay, we got you and DeLille and Magnuson, and you're walking down Fish Creek, and it's been, just tell us what it was like, and then I would talk about it. So what you would have seen is B-roll of us walking and saying, as the group, as we continue down, kind of a narration of what we were doing, and then you would get into like the real time moment. So I think they realized it just wasn't going to click right. It probably made it look campy, and they decided to go with the person to voice over to do the history points. But I did all those little things like about um, Cravey and Adolph Ruth and all those. I did all those, and that was all me. And then I just didn't think it was going to work, and I was not surprised that they had someone else narrate. They didn't want to use my music, and then they took that. So somewhere on a shelf there are all these things. I mean, let's face it, man. There was days that's all I did. They just had me sit there and for 8, 10 hours just talk about things. There was nothing else. We didn't do anything. The other guys just sat back at a hotel or someplace, and I talked. Frank was out there with me at times because they would decide to give me someone to ride with, but unless the producers rode with me, and then sometimes nobody went but me. But there was plenty of times I was just by myself, and they just had me talk about stuff. Clay Worst had to do at least 6, 7 hours of interviews that are Tom Collenborn too. They didn't use much of anything they filmed with those guys. I sat there for at least 2 hours, 3 hours of Clay Worst, one of his interviews at his house. We were on the side of his house, and I just sat there in a chair. Noah Mathers um, let me put on the cans, and I sat there and because he said you got to listen to Clay, how good he sounds and stuff, and he let me put on the cans, and I sat there in Noah's chair and for a long time sat there and listened to Clay, and that was awesome stuff. So let's see here, to Bob, to Bob, to Bob, to Bob. It's about control of money. Well, it wasn't about control. I think it was just about it. Just didn't. You got to remember, we were the curse of the Superstitions. It was supposed to be the Oak Island sister show because Oak Island had only done 5 episodes, so they really hadn't hit a rhythm either. So the idea was for us to do this. Then they had Curse of the Frozen Gold. Then they were going to do a Curse of something else like Jesse James Treasure. But they were going to do a whole series. So during the year, you would have these different shows of different treasures. So when one ends, the next one would be already get started. And you'd have these different styled treasure shows that are all curses. It was supposed to be that. We were nothing like Oak Island. And Oak Island was filming the same time we were filming for our first season. They were filming for season 2, and that's when they came to us and said it's not going to be, it's not similar. They own the property. It's just a whole different narrative look. So what they did was, because of our cinematography and big wide open spaces and all, then we became, from Curse of the Superstitions, we became Dead Man's Gold, and that's what the show was called for months. And then just at the last minute, they renamed it Superstition Mountain. And then the first, I don't think anybody caught it, but the first screen advertisement for it on History Channel and other channels was Superstition Mountain. And that was, it just said Superstition Mountain. And then I saw it, and then within a day, 24 to 48 hours, it became Legend of the Superstition Mountains. Because I don't think anybody paid attention at first. Not that the name changed, but that there was a change in the name. So, because it just would flash on there, February 8th, Superstition Mountain comes to History Channel. And that was it. No voice, no music, nothing. It would just be up on the screen like one of those little quick things. And yeah, then it changed because I noticed like suddenly it said Legend of the Superstition. And I called somebody and said, hey, do they know what they're calling our show? And they said, yes, it's going to be Legend of the Superstition Mountain. So American Primeval's good. That's an awesome show. You should watch it if you didn't. It doesn't matter that the history is not perfectly accurate. They did a really nice job with the cinematography, the various storylines, and everything about it. So no, the idea in the narration again was not to cut away to me or this or that or the interviews or not to do it. It was just to talk about certain things, and you have to understand it took a lot to get the other guys involved. So think about it. You watch the first 2, 3 episodes. If we're not interacting with one of the guys, they're just not there. And there was a problem with like, we really fought to get DeLille in them more, because there was a certain point there was like, why is DeLille here? He's just in camera. Like, he grab my bags, Jives. And or Jeeves. Is it Jeeves or Jives? Anyways, yeah, it was just kind of weird, and they weren't using him much. They were trying to use Woody a lot, and that was another thing. Woody had a hard time with the camera. You could sit with Woody and say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And Woody would give you like 5 minutes. And it was, oh, great, let's go film it. And they clicked the camera on, and Woody couldn't remember his name. And so it ended up being very problematic, as he just had this thing, red light fever, even though there wasn't really a red light there. As soon as he knew they were filming, Woody stumbled and had all kinds of problems, which turned into a great commercial that they never ran, which I'll explain as soon as I get through this. And they're going to use them there. Well, they just weren't sure what to do with everything. They would film and record everything possible, and then decide as you're editing what you need to use and what various things. If you need to have some other guy come in and voice over it, that's fine. But Woody was supposed to say, we did all these little things for streaming internet, all kinds of stuff, and it would be like, I was over by a barn or something, by some horses. I'd just say, hey, I'm Wayne Tuttle, Legend of the Superstition Mountains. Catch us February 8th. I don't know what it was, at 8 Eastern, 6 Pacific, or 6 Eastern, 8 Pacific on the History Channel. And we're supposed to say that, and that's what you're supposed to say. So you're supposed to do that, and they're filming it, and they're going to put them out there. Those little viral spots they're going to put all over the internet and Facebook and YouTube, and use them on television. It's going to be this, okay, we're going to put you in Times Square now. So I don't know what everybody else did, but I remember doing mine. I remember watching DeLille do his. He did a pretty good job. And they were all pretty good. And then they went to do Woody's. And then they brought it over when they were starting to try to edit it, because it was Woody not being able to remember anything. So he's like, hi, Okay, I'm Woody. Yeah, Woody Wampler. Okay. Hi, I'm Woody. The Legend. What's the name of the show again? It was just like a minute and a half of that, of him just constantly can't remember the next word. And it was hilarious because Woody was so frustrated trying to get anything out. And he was cracking up. It was funny. And they never used it. I never saw it anywhere. I saw it that day when they said, yeah, we'll edit it down and we'll get it to, about 90 seconds. But man, this is going to be awesome. Well, I was like, man, this is funny as hell. So, but they didn't use it for whatever reason. Um, um, the show will be out there forever. You can find it on Amazon Prime. You can find it here. You can find it. You'll always be able to find the show. And they still run it overseas. It's still run in Europe in different locations. So there you go. Man, the hours went by fast. Is that correct? Yeah, it is correct. Dang. Okay, so your dad was a pilot. No, he wasn't a pilot. My dad was not a pilot. Greg Davis was a pilot. Greg Davis probably has 10,000, 20,000 flight time hours. He was a U.S. Navy pilot, and he was a commercial pilot. And he has zero UFO stories. I found most people, and I knew a lot of pilots, most of them had zero UFO stories. All the guys that had a lot of flight time, so it seems to be a very, very. I've known people that worked out by Groom Lake and worked for the military. Sorry, and they didn't go like it, but they just said, yeah, it's like there's classified stuff out there we test and do. That was it. In fact, I just talked to someone the other day, called and we were talking, and I was telling him how there was a guy I knew, and he had done a lot of concrete work on the runways and a lot of stuff out at Groom Lake for foundations and stuff, and worked there for many years. And he said he never really thought much about it when they were out there and stuff, and nobody was out there talking about UFOs. Off topic, do you own or use a fuzz? No, I don't use a fuzz tone. There might be a fuzz tone to something. Um, I use a governor pedal. I use a big muff, so big muff can kind of pull that off a little bit. I use TS8s, TS9s. I got my bad monkey. I got a bad monkey, but I don't have a fuzz box. No. So there you go. That's not nothing to be sorry about. He just wasn't a pilot. He was in the Air Force and then he went to work for Delta Airlines. But I knew a lot of pilots because of him and associated with them and all. And I never heard anybody ever talk about this stuff. And then when I got older, I started asking people about stuff, and most everybody was kind of like, no, they've never seen anything, nothing they couldn't explain or didn't. So I don't know. Dead Man's Gold Japanese version is a riot. I always wanted to see a Spanish version. I have a feeling the English one, they sped our voices up and kind of altered them a little. The Irish and English and the other ones. I always wanted to hear the German and different ones. I know Saudi Arabia, they mostly speak English, so I think it was just in English still with subtitles and like Arabic or whatever. But I've always wanted to hear the other language ones. We did hear a different film or documentary that Bob Shoes, Ron Feldman, and everybody was in, and they gave Bob Shoes this really kind of like, you think Bob Shoes would get this really like, hey man, and voice, and they had this really high pitched voice on him. It was funny. So who knows? But yeah, I've always asked people from other countries. I said, hey, if you ever get it, if they voiced us over, do it. And the ones I heard from England, Europe, where they just kind of did our voices funny. Magnuson sounds like he's like dead helium or something. It's really weird. When you flew in that helicopter experience was the best experience of the whole time, man. Got in so much trouble for that because that's a lot of money putting a chopper up for half a day. And um, they put us up, and then they briefed him a bit, and they told the cameraman, Glenn Evans, what they wanted to do. And then basically, Mitch Keldorf decided I'm the boss. We're in the helicopter. We got in the helicopter, and me and him and Magnuson and Glenn took off. And then we went over the Salt River, and we're going through, and then Mitch just said, Wayne, where do you want to go? You're in charge. And I said, oh, I want to go here. So we buzzed the quarter circle U. We went up and down Hewitt, went over Bluff Springs. We did donuts around Weaver's Needle. We went up Peters Mesa. We went all over the place and had a blast. And then we did the Salt River and kind of over the horses down the river and all that stuff. The air conditioning wasn't working the chopper, so we had the doors open, which was an experience too. You're like buzzing through the stuff and you got the doors open. But turning on our side, going around Weaver's Needle was really cool. And I'm sure that footage is be awesome because Glenn was filming everything. But yeah, we got in so much trouble because we never went where we were supposed to do or did anything we were supposed to do. So they were like, it was a complete waste of time. They spent tens of thousands of dollars and we just flew wherever we wanted. But Mitch said, Wayne, where do you want to go? And I'm thinking, I even thought about briefly of having him get down low within 15, 20 feet off of Bluff Springs, jump off the chopper and head for the quarter circle U. And when they came back, they were like, where's Wayne? Oh, he jumped the chopper. I thought that would be the coolest thing for them that I'm missing in the mountains. But my truck was back there and I had the keys in my pocket. So, and I didn't want Frank or one of them to drive my truck back. So it was a King Ranch. It was a very expensive truck. I did not think I should let them do it. Is there any right go in the mountains with you anymore? We did. Yeah, we got filmed. We filmed something about a year ago. We were back in my first water. We're supposed to go again. So him and his son and myself and Trevor went in, and we had a nice day. We had a great day. There's a video of us talking where we're just sitting on a rock talking about it. We did with Randy, but there's footage of us out doing other stuff in the mountains there. So, and we talked about it. It's just him getting the time off, and time. It's not so much time away from his family, but getting the time off where he can just go do something and all like that. And it'll happen. We've promised ourselves we'll do it again, but at least getting that, a couple of the trips we've gotten in has been really cool. Can't wait for them to come out with something else about Yamashita's goal. I don't know about that. They wanted Frank to do that. I think that was the one they wanted Frank on because they wanted him to go over to the Philippines or something and do all this filming, and they were going to do this stuff, and then Frank didn't want to do it. He said he spent enough time in the jungles of Vietnam when he was 18. He had no desire to ever see that again. And that was the end of that. I can't wait. Okay, yeah. So, Frank had his taste of reality television, and if it meant flying halfway across the world and throwing it back in a jungle, yeah, he had no desire for that. So that was not going to go over well with flying Cisco the Augustine. So, which was, and I thought it was funny because it's like I kind of got it though. It's like just him and his wife, and she probably wouldn't want to go and sit there, and they got their lives. How did Frank save Woody's life? Woody was sliding off a boulder, sliding down a hillside off a boulder into a canyon off a cliff, and Frank grabbed him, and Woody was like, "Don't let me go, Frank." And sometimes Frank wonders if he should have let him go, but nah. But yeah, we did a video on that too. There is a video of Frank and Woody talking about how Frank saved his life. So look for it. It's there. It's got the two of them, Frank and Woody, and they talk about it. But I'm pretty sure it was Woody was going off this over by the upper claim, and he was going down, and he was starting to go off this boulder, and he couldn't get any footing, and he was going to fall off. And big drop, and Frank grabbed him, and Frank had to pull him back up and out. But I can't remember if he fell or I think he slipped and fell. But no, we did do a video on it, not of the actual thing happening, but of them talking about it. So that is out there as well. There you go. It's always that stuff. We capture a lot of stuff. Yeah, we did that at the trying to remember the Rock and Mineral Show. The guys that had the stone maps for a long time. Mesa Community College. We did that right over there. We just talked about it when we were out there this year. We filmed a bunch of stuff with them out there, Woody and Frank. We were there, and Trevor had his camera, and I said, guys, come over here. Just talk about this, talk about that, talk about that. I saw a vid. Woody gets teary-eyed. Woody gets pretty emotional. He can get pretty superstitious. He can get pretty out there, and he can get teary-eyed. He can get, we gotta remember the guy almost died. He's living life and living good. Like I said, he called me this morning, probably about 10 a.m., 10:30. He called and we talked briefly. So yeah, I've talked to Woody actually in the last couple of weeks more than Frank. So I gotta call Frank and see what the hell he's doing, because he's like sheltering in place or something going on. Um, and usually it's just everybody hears from everybody, and then I get a hold of everybody. And yeah, as long as he's healthy, I'm fine. But yeah, so but hopefully get Francisco out to do something here shortly. And I've been bugging him, and he's, it's just people get older, and I'm not going to say they can't do things, but it just, times can get more complicated. So a lot of times the time you spend with them is either on the phone, or you can just go over and visit them and hang out and do something else. So, and I don't mind doing that, but it's cooler to do it big in the big wide open and stuff. So there you go. We're about ready to finish up, aren't we? Yeah, are we? Yeah, wow. Time went by fast today. I don't know. The last few, everybody's been like, they've been good and everything going well. It's just kind of weird. So, not the little different crowd, not the same crowd, but I did make it again. And again, I will promise to make it if I can. It's going to be purely based on the traffic coming home and what time we get out and I can get going. As Larry will say, I literally, when the last thing is done and we can get rolling, I'm rolling down the hill. I'm trying to get out of there so I can get the jump out. Thanks for hunting. Wasn't so much a hustle. It was just, like I said, it's just the timing. If it's there, it's there. Have a great weekend. Play that damn guitar. I will. I got a grocery stop, and then I got dinner, and then guitars every day. It's just a thing. I have to hook something up here. But yeah, there's a bunch of guitar tracks that need done, and I haven't got to. And that's probably next week. I'm thinking, yeah, it probably is next week, because there was a bunch of stuff this week I was doing different. You got to take a breather from one thing and do something different. Kind of clear your head, and then go and do something. And then when you find you're repetitive, change it up and go do something else. Just go keyboards, or just do rhythm tracks, or just start, like I said before, digitizing other tapes and get your head out of it for a while. Have a great weekend. Yeah, everybody, have a great weekend. Thanks for another Friday. See you next time. Thanks, David. Tell Lacey I said hi too again. And I said goodbye. Tell Lacey I said goodbye. Kind of diet tonight. Nah, it's just a salad and breadsticks. Be well and God bless. Have a good weekend. And I will honestly this. The kids always wanted pizza on Fridays, and it's been a lifetime of Friday pizzas, unless I can convince everybody Chinese once in a while or something else. I'm very happy to have a big club salad tonight and breadsticks, because there's a certain point where I just don't want pizza again, and it's just too much. Now, steak on Saturdays, I always eat my steak on Saturdays. I don't have a problem with that, but it had gotten old because sometimes at work you grab some pizza, and it's like, man. So I was pizza done to a degree, because it's either the homemade stuff that they make the dough and do everything homemade, or just there wasn't a lot of variation on it. So I do miss the Saturday morning get up and eat pizza for breakfast, though. Keep all things golden, folks. Stay, what are we, Pony Boy? Yes, Ryan Adams, not Brian, but Ryan Adams, playing a show in Phoenix. So Stephen Wilson. Stephen Wilson's going to be here in September. Stephen Wilson of the Porcupine Tree fame will be out here with the overview. We'll have to talk about that sometime. It's a very cool concept album thing he's doing. But I'm going to get out of here so I can get my stuff rolling. I need to do several things, which not only shut this down and say goodbye to you all, but I got to have a cigarette and then prepare myself to do that. And somewhere along the line, close my eyes for 5 minutes and just say, whew, okay, it's been a pretty busy kind of go day. I'm still looking for green chili recipe. I'll have to mention it here. See, I can get out of here, and then I can go ask in there, and then have someone put it down, and then see if I can get a green chili, like green chili chilies or green chili. I'll look at it in the comments and stuff. But yes, I'm sure there's a green chili. They do the green chili enchiladas here. I know a lot. So I'm always a red guy. I always like the red stuff better. Okay, now I'm trying to find my mouse. Remember, it was broke when we started, so now I'm trying to get it. There we go. So, oh, I hear the dog food moving around. Green chili burritos. Okay, I'll ask. Yeah, they do enchiladas and burritos and everything. They do green chili. That's the household thing. I'll find a recipe for that, and then we'll do that. And then we'll be your one-stop source for all things treasure hunting, Dutch hunting, the Superstition Mountains, the weather in Phoenix, Arizona, and recipes, as well as recording advice. So there you go. It'll be all things Wayne. And I'll have to find my hat, because then I'll have to wear the hat that says it's Wayne's World. I do have one of those hats, because when the movie came out, someone bought it for me, because it seems so apt. So I do have a Wayne's World hat, so you don't have to flood me with that stuff. Wayne's World, party time, excellent, woo woo. All right, so everybody have a great weekend, have a great time. I will catch you all back next Friday, hopefully. We'll see what's going on. So until then, take care, be well, and we will see you again. Well, you'll see me, but can't talk to me on Monday on